back, everybody. Welcome to my channel. Today, guys, we are going to be telling you a story that is old as time, and it is very good. So, this is the mist between blue and gray creepypasta. Alright, let's begin. The one thing I know, perhaps the last thing I know to be true, is that there is a very fine mist between one dimension and the next. One and crossing that mist is never good, because even a shift in the smallest detail offers magnitudes of misfortune, because hard alcohol is just so damned easy was the last thing I remember telling myself before drinking into the shiny brass redness of the night. I woke up that morning as the previous evening began tunneling its worm-like way back into my brightening memory. I drank too much again. I drank alone again. The evening's memory were dim and barely like dirt binoculars, but a few vivid memories of taking one more drink, just one more, kept creeping into my head. My head throbbed, and my stomach was on the fritz. It was a Wednesday morning, and my wife was still across the country on a work trip. My son, just 2 years old, was crying from his crib. It was about 20 minutes past the time he normally woke up. How long had he been awake? I licked my lips, and among the right corner, where my upper and lower came together, was a dried spot of drool that tasted like something between whiskey, cigarettes, and vomit. I jumped out of bed, already feeling like an asshole before I even brushed my teeth, and began towards my boy's room. I opened the door, and the volume of his cry seemed to quadruple in my already throbbing head. I can see tears rolling down his cheeks, which means his hands are up in the air, and his fingers are crawling up and straightening in an effort to hurry up me to him. I love his tiny fingers, but I can't get past the pleasuring in my head that isn't on skiperated when I bend over to pick him up. My vision goes spotty for a minute as I lifted him to my shoulders. My vision goes spotty for a moment as I lifted him to my shoulders, then fall back. Then it slowly returns in an up-flaring, pounding pleasures. My son cries slowly, loosening over to the next few minutes as I carry him out to the living room, where I grab him a yogurt and a cup of milk. I put a TV show and I pray that he gives me a few minutes apiece to gather myself and get ready for work. My son mischievously seems to grumble with my prayers. I head upstairs and start the shower, staring at myself in the mirror as the water heats up. I see a pair of gray bloodshot eyes staring back at me, with dark bags under my eyes, and significantly too much facial scruff to pull off as 5 o'clock shadow. I consider punching the mirror in frustration that I've done this to myself again. Then, think better of it. Instead, I take my clothes off and jump in the shower. 20 minutes later, the hangover or something else continues to cast its eerie shadow across every move I make, even as I load my son into the car seat on a day that it's cloudless. There seems There seems to be an unappointed gray hovering over each spectral sense. It is depressing and unsynosis. The drive to daycare doesn't feel any better, and I can't help but think this is something beyond a standard hangover. It is darker, more malevolent somehow, but something tells me that if I can safely get my son to daycare and then just take a deep breath, things will begin to go blue again. That's what my wife calls it. She says, whenever you're having a bad day, just think blue thoughts. She loves blue, and so do I. It's the color of water and sky and peace, and I haven't seen much of it lately. I pull up to daycare in my standard suburban vehicle, exactly what you expect to see in any upper middle class neighborhood. White SUV. The make and model doesn't matter. If it is reasonably clean, they are waiting for him inside. My brow frowns in confusion that there is a welcoming party today. It is not that this never happens, but it is rare. Maybe they just saw me pulling up and decided to come greet us. Either way, this welcoming doesn't help this particular sense of unease this day has already greeted me with, especially because the smiles on their face look plastic. There is nothing, no humanity behind them that I can make sense. There are not smiles of happiness, smiles of necessity, smiles of desire. They might as well be doll faces. Welcome to the dollhouse. Wanna come play? I hastily greet the welcoming party. Miss Greta and Miss Nina. They say hello in a very strange way. It was hollow. It bounced off my ears and intensified the throbbing in my head. I sped past them with my son in one arm and the other hand against my ear to dull the noise. It doesn't help. They followed me in and now saying nothing, but plastic smiles still glued to their faces. The inside of the daycare was listless today. Like other daycares, this one, if memory serves, was full of bright colors and laughing, screaming children and welcoming women who were bright and cheery. Lots of blue, not a positive, but that is what I remember. My wife usually takes him to daycare. Today, the daycare was gray with splotches of black. I suddenly realized that I am sweating, which I can surely be from drinking a bottle of whiskey last night. But this seems like something else. Several dozen eyes are on me. Teachers, students, ambassadors, they are looking at me, and each one has a plastic smile. They want me to leave, and I'm prepared to give them what they want. But my son, in this, all in my head, I need to clear it. Yes, I've been taking him to his daycare for almost a year and a half, and I'll drop him off and leave work early. I'll pick him up again early and get him out to this gray, listless, strange day. We'll hunker down at home and turn things back to blue. I leave him begrudgingly, and I don't leave him, but I need to get fresh takes on the day. I need to re-encounter, hopefully, and realize, but this is just all in my head, and the day has turned rotten, turned sour. When I leave work later that day, things had brightened a bit. The hangover was worn off, and I cleared my panola. I think the throbbing in my head has deceased almost to a dull nothing. But at my office, I then realized there is almost no one there. Maybe no one at all. Can that be right? There was no one at work for the entire day. My office is small, and sometimes people work from home or travel, but no one was at all. I suppose not. I also realized that my commute to work was basically empty. Have I seen anyone at all since leaving my son's daycare? I think not, and I feared, oh God, That can't be right. I'm driving back to my son's daycare, and even though it it is only early afternoon, the sky over an empty suburban highway is turning a belt gray that is typically only reserved for an overcast twilight. That what is becoming of this place, this cloudless blue sleepy town full of well-to-do families, has suddenly become a graying ghost town of pledged piracy. As I got closer to daycare, I drove alongside groves of trees that had been full and green, but were now athletically skeletons of crick and shadow. I pull up to the daycare parking lot in a deeper fear creeping over me that I cannot shake. I think that something has happened to my son. Something sinister, not accidental. A lone cloud anonymously hovers over the daycare, casting even more darkness on an already darkly world. I can see sets of eyes, maybe two, peering through the blinds and drawing over the front window to the daycare. My nerves are twitching and bolt out of the car and towards the door. I open the door and there is no one at the window, but the color of the world has changed. It is brightened again. Colors are vibrant. Kids are laughing and screaming playfully, and the woman, Miss Nancy at the front desk, is bright and cheery. No sign of plastic faces. She is wearing a sweater that says, "Mama needs coffee," and gives me a big smile, and I approach with confusion, and happiness spreads all over the way. Across my face, and I see lots of blue again. "Miss Garrison, it is so good to see you," she says, a perfectly human smile held steadily through the words. I disordered by the balance of color and happiness that I feel. The world has returned. People have returned, and my son in his wonderful, happy place. It has never seemed to be wonderful to me before, but I realize now just how beautiful it is. Still unsteady, I put my hands on the deck for balance and attempt to return Miss Nancy's smile, but fail, producing only an awkward bearing of teeth and uncertainty. "Yes, hi, Miss Nancy. Thank you. I am here to pick up my son." The warm, loving smile of Miss Nancy that has hoped completely transform my mood is suddenly replaced by a look of dismay. Her eyebrows squinch and her mouth like flattens. Let me check." She turns to the computer and types a few keywords. "No, Devin was dropped off today." Her eyes remain fixed on the computer for a moment, then rise to meet mine, and with fear and pleading that there is a simple reason for this. Perhaps his mother took him for a day out. Her eyes say, "But I know that this is not what happened. I am back in hell, no longer plainly a bright one, full of blue and purple, and even with the warmth of brightness all around me, I am frantic and frozen all at the same time. My son isn't here." I don't argue with this, Miss Nancy, because I know that it is true. I didn't drop him off here. It was like here, but it wasn't exactly. In some ways, not even close. For the past 5 years, I've been retracing my steps from that morning, trying to find the other daycare. That others. What was it? I never believed in other. In other. In other. That is where the story ends. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking and subscribing to hear more creepy stories by Creepypasta. Or else I know where you are.